Orky conversions are one of my favorite things to see in this hobby. In celebration of Orktober, I'll be showing you my own Khorne-Orks I converted once upon a time, which eventually led to Dark Broozers, which are designed by Geargut's mech shop. And it wouldn't be Orktober unless we added some rock to it. On this stage, Mini Wargamer Dave here from miniwargaming.com, and this is Orktober. This is one of the most insane conversions I've ever seen. First off, is it a terrain piece? Is it a vehicle? Is it a diorama? It's kind of all three. This is a stage that a goth rocker would be on. This was painted and converted by Wing Smooth Painting, and one of the fun games that I like to play is catching all of the names of the different bands. Like for instance, here's Green Boy. And on the back here or up top is Guns and Dakka. You can see that. That just makes sense, right? There's the gothing stones on this side. We've got Mad Zeppelin over here, and then Morktalica on this side over here where the speakers are. Got flamers up top with the pyrotechnic grot, just making sure that he's doing a good job. You have the singer here that has Smash up top, which, you know, that's got to be like a Orky Korgan. That's the only way that would make sense, right? Yeah, we got the drummer in the back here. We can forget that with the stick bombs. Yeah, like we got to show that off. But that isn't actually the thing that makes this as cool as it is. The cool thing about this, the coolest thing about this, is this. I don't know how much of the audio I can play, so I'm only going to play like 2 seconds of it. But there's a Bluetooth speaker inside. Yeah, I would rather have this than a JBL any day. Super cool. Wing Smooth Painting, thanks for sending this to me. This wasn't something that I paid for. This was, hey Dave, we want to make you something. Would you do that in exchange for letting people know who made it? Absolutely, I will. So here you go. Wing Smooth Painting, link below if you want to get a cool conversion like this for yourself to celebrate Orktober. That's all I wanted to do. I was reading this story about a character in the Warhammer 40k lore called Tuska Demonkilla. And I really loved his story. And then I discovered there was no actual physical model for him, which irked me because I wanted the model of him based on the cool story I had read about him. Two things. One, this is the story of Tuska. And two, I'll show you the model that I had custom made so as to satisfy that there is no model for him. Tuska, a powerful orc warlord known for his battlefield trophies, thrived on fighting larger foes. In 890 Millennia 41, his ship Gorja was invaded by a demonic entity in the warp. Tuska confronted and killed the beast, adding its horns to his collection. Driven by a thirst for more demons to battle, Tuska gathered weird boys to breach the Eye of Terror, seeking carnage within the Immaterium. Tuska's relentless attacks on demon worlds caught the attention of Khorne. His Wa crashed on a planet ruled by a powerful demon prince. Tuska, mortally wounded, managed to kill the Blood Prince with the aid of his weird boys before dying himself. Though his horde was wiped out, Khorne, impressed by their unyielding bloodlust, resurrected the orcs to fight endlessly. Now, Tuska and his horde battle Khorne's demons daily in an eternal cycle of war near the Brass Citadel. Tuska has found the never-ending fight he craved, a spectacle pleasing to Khorne. Like, that's just one of the coolest stories I've ever heard. It combines two great loves, Khorne and orcs. Are you kidding me? So can you imagine the disappointment I felt when I figured out there was no model for him? So what did I do? I reached out to the community and I thought, all right, we're just gonna have to make it ourselves. That's when Smashed Head came up with the concept and said, Dave, what do you think about that? And I said, yes, I want to use that. Next was figuring out who was going to sculpt it. And who better than Raphael Stumpo to come up with a concept based on an illustration, which is what he thrives on. So absolutely perfect. And the third thing was getting a painter to paint it up to an immaculate standard, worthy of an orc who's been fighting endlessly next to the Brass Citadel. That was Marco Baricelli. So this is the result of all of that desire to see Tuska come to life. Today's Just Move Challenge. Encourage more movement in the community. I'm going to do 10 leg raises. Why are we doing this? To combine movement with miniatures. I'm going to just move my abs more because it's always good to have a strong core, right? Yeah, you want to move it more. If you have a thought in your brain to do it and you can, just move.
If you're in a place where you wouldn't normally do it, but you can, just move. You won't do it later. It's true. You just won't. You'll procrastinate. That's 10. That's a challenge. Let me know when you have done it. Leave it in the comments. I just moved, and then that's it. You're done.
There was a time when I had this thought in my brain to convert some orcs to dedicate themselves to Khorne. Khorne-Orks. And what better than to kit bash an old rhino chassis into some sort of orc truck. That's exactly what I did here once upon a time. And I gotta tell you, it was so much fun to do. I just grabbed some bits in the bits box and I started slapping on those panels of plastic, and it was a lot of fun. So I times that by 2 because I have a couple rhinos here, or rhino trucks that I've done that with. But you can't just have rhino trucks, you gotta have them filled with some sort of berserker boys, which is why I converted up some berserker boys. And so I used a combination of blood warriors from Age of Sigmar and some knobs. So just to be clear, these are knob-sized orc boys. We have a couple orc boys from Warhammer 40K, but we got some knobs, some orc boys, and some blood warriors, and just a whole bunch of bits and pieces. Now I gotta say, I'm not the most, how should I put this? I'm not the cleanest converter when it comes to converting stuff. I like to just slap the plastic on and glue it and not get hung up too much on smooth transitions and using green stuff and like spending a million hours on things. I just want to see things put together as I slap them together with plastic. Like more advanced stuff, like I have mad respect for that. But when it comes to this, like here, look at this. This is a Luda, but it's really just me slapping on extra weapons and bits to the Ludas. And you can tell by looking at it, like any converter who converts things knows that it's a pretty messy job. But you know what? Doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter. To me, the most important thing is just get that on and have some fun. So I built up this warband once upon a time to actually participate in a Path to Glory, which is a slow build campaign where you get to add 1 unit at a time to your warband to play them in games against an opponent over time to slowly build your force. Instead of buying a massive army, then having the thought of having to convert and paint up the whole thing. So by doing it 1 unit at a time and actually rolling randomly for it, it kind of gives you this fun way of building your own army. This here is the war boss. Again, super simple, and just enough to know that he's dedicated himself to Khorne. Now the cool thing about this one is I actually had a competition with Winter's SEO on who can convert the best war boss. And at the time I was thinking to myself, I got super overconfident. I was like, man, I'm gonna have the best war boss. He's gonna look good. I'm gonna do my best on the paint job and see how he does. And we actually had a community vote on it, and he slaughtered me. He got much more positive votes because the amount of effort he put into his was, objectively speaking, much more than what I put into mine. I basically put a Khorne helmet on a war boss. Is essentially what I did, right? And here I am thinking that it's all cool, and I put this this tire on the base and had the skull on the back, and I thought it was done, but no. You got to do more than that. Now, granted, I did put a plate there in front of him just to let you know he's dedicated to Khorne. But what Winters did is he actually scratch built basically a Killacan, and some of the comments were, man, that's the orkiest conversion I've ever seen. And so that taught me a big lesson. That taught me if I'm gonna go and try to do some sort of orc conversion, I gotta really make it so it looks very different from the original to really orcify it. Because if you think about it, what would the orcs do? Okay, if there's a whole bunch of grots, what would they do to actually make it so it looked orcified? Well, first off, there would be a bunch of grots like this. They would be put to work. They would be working day and night to orcify it and make it their own. Such was the case with this right here, which is my Hell Brute. And see over here on his left, as the Lasher Tendril, what I decided to do was grab some of those, what are they called from Age of Sigmar? Those like, I think they're called Wrathmongers. I grabbed some of their weapons and I put them on the ends of pistols that grots, I figured they could just shoot them out of their guns, kind of like a clown gun with like a, like a punching boxing glove. And I made this platform on the left because they got to stand on some sort of platform in order to do that. And then on this side, how much fun is that Grot having with his Khorne helmet on top of that gun as it fires off, right? Like, and then of course we have the ammo box up top. It was just so much fun doing this. It was just fun. And that's the key, was having fun with all this stuff. Here is probably in terms of scale, one of the most fun conversions that I did for this army, because it's big, right? It's big and impressive looking, and the more bits I could add to it, the kind of creativity just flowed. And the top of this Land Raider acted as a cool platform just to like put more bits on. I put some tires underneath so it can go down there easy. And yeah, but it wasn't enough to just have this, right? Like you look at this is kind of a decently sized force, but I wanted more. And so I asked my friend Kyle from Geargut's Mech Shop. I said, hey Kyle, do you think you can design some Khorne-Orks for me? And he's like, well, obviously I can't design Khorne-Orks because that's copyright. But what I could do is design some Dark Broozers and include them in the Bruiser collection that I have. And so on this side over here, what you see is a whole bunch of Geargut's Broozers, Dark Broozers, that I love to proxy in games of Warhammer 40K as Khorne-Orks. So there's a lot of like layers of, I suppose, proxying going on here, right? Like for this right there, for instance, that is what you think it would be, okay? I proxy this as a Lord Discordant because he just looks super cool. Props to Kyle for having the ability, first off, to design all this stuff. It's all out of his head. It's all insane. Like one human, one dude designs all this stuff, which is nuts. These over here, check this out. Got some Decimator proxies on this side. I love how chunky his models are. His models are just super chunk all day long. Very, very cool. In the back here, take a look at this. I'll put this side by side. So this is the transport equivalent. I love the tracks that go all the way around. They just look super cool. Whenever I see vehicles designed that way, I'm immediately drawn to it, think it's super awesome. Basically, it reminds me of one of those like RC cars that's able to go downstairs and it can still drive even though it tumbles all the way down the stairs. That to me is what an Ork vehicle should look like. Is like, yeah, that an Ork vehicle can like go up a wall, go upside down, go back, and go everywhere. So awesome design by Kyle. And also his designs are, what's a word I could use? Clean? Like you can tell what everything is. Everything's intentional. There isn't too much distraction from what is most important, which is the functionality of the thing itself. Like you see this, you know it's a transport, you know it's orcs, you see that up there. Pieces are deliberate and simple in nature. It's not overly complicated and confusing. It's like, yeah, I know exactly what that is. That's a ramp that goes down, sinks its teeth into the ground, and then we're ready to go, right? So that's what I love about his designs. It's just super awesome. This is one of my faves. This is here's a vehicle that I like to proxy as a defiler. I just love this stuff. And I love how even like the back there, like there's chains over that hatch, like just the little embellishments like that, or the million eyes in the front, as a spider would have. Super cool. Now, here's a game. I'll play this game with you. This one might be a little obvious what you would proxy this for in a Chaos Space Marine army. If you don't know, what I would is Winged Demon Prince, right? Pretty straightforward if you're familiar. If not, that's what the proxy is. This one here, maybe a little less obvious, but what would this proxy as? Ted, what would you proxy that for?
Chaos Lord.
Yeah, this is a regular Lord, maybe?
Yep.
Yeah. Master of Executions, maybe?
Yep. Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially with that. The hammer just makes me think of a giant cog.
Yeah.
Like a sprocket.
Yeah, like a sprocket, right? Yeah. Now this here, this is definitely would be a Chaos Lord, or no, actually this is that'd be an aspiring champion. Yeah, base size kind of gives it away there. But this one, what do you think this would proxy as? What would be your guess in the comments for that one? To me, it's obvious when I look at it. That is a named character that I would proxy him for. Yeah, you got that chain axe up in the air and a plasma pistol looking like weapon in his left hand. Yeah, that would be my Khorne proxy if I was fielding him. Yeah, proxying this entire thing. But anyway, I wanted to show this off because it's on the shelf. You know, it's most of the time it's just there on display, collecting dust in a very kind of tragic way. So what better than to celebrate Orktober than to bring them out and to show them off? And not only did Kyle design all of these, he painted all of them up too. That's right. So this is just a massive shout out to Kyle, Geargut's Mech Shop, for his art, his talent, his skill, all this stuff. It's just super cool, super awesome. I've provided links in the description if you guys are curious and you want to get some of these on your own. And who knows, maybe I should ask Kyle if we should produce these physically in the Forge. I wonder what he would say. Yeah, maybe I should ask you guys, what do you guys think? Should we make these available in the Mini Wargaming Forge? That might be a loaded question. I think that's kind of, I don't know how that works in terms of the possible licenses and who he's got deals with thus far, but I know for me, I want to produce them out there for my own selfish purposes. Like I want, you know, how cool it would be if like this thing was like this big. Right? That's why I want to do it. That's I'm looking at that thing behind me and like, yeah, it'd be cool if like there was one of these that was that size. Massive thanks to Wayland for sponsoring this. Check out links below. Sign up for their newsletter. Get 10 to 20% off various products, including Warhammer, if you are in the UK and Europe, Fallout, Infinity, Malifaux, Lego. They sell a bunch of stuff on their website. Link provided in the description. Now on to the next segment.